due to inclement weather, he could not fly to Aizawl. In a virtual mode, he actually inaugurated the 3 railway trains to other parts of the country from the newly built Sairang railway station, which has put Mizoram in the national railway network. Remember, Mizoram, if you see, is a very remote state, and therefore in the monsoons particularly, the road links get disrupted. The airfares would between Aizawl to Guwahati, which is about a 40 minutes flight, would be more than 15,000 rupees. So for the common people, it was a big issue. And therefore, the government of India taking this initiative, remember, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014 who laid the foundation stone of this 51-kilometer railway link between Vairabi and Sairang to link Mizoram to the national rail grid. This is seen something by the people of not only Mizoram but other parts of Northeast as a great reach out of New Delhi to link the far-flung areas. And remember, the Prime Minister also highlighting this point without taking name of the Congress. He clearly said that in governments in past had this thought that places like Mizoram have less votes, have less members in the parliament, so there was no focus. But in Northeast, although there are only 14 members from all the 8 states of Northeast to Lok Sabha, Prime Minister says that these marginalized areas have been now mainstream. This is perhaps his philosophy when it comes to promoting Northeast, and therefore as you have rightly pointed out, the Manipur visit is definitely the highlight of this 3-day visit. But remember, all across Northeast, in this 3 days visit, he's going to inaugurate or lay foundation stones of projects worth 38,000 crores, which is a big investment in this region. He's going to inaugurate the country's first bioethanol plant, which has come up in Numaligarh in Assam. Is going to inaugurate that tomorrow. In Assam, there will be several key projects which will be inaugurated and foundation stone laid. So therefore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaching out to this region once again with his mantra of development. Remember, what he is trying to say is that these 8 states of Northeast is part of India's growth engine, and it is the gateway to Southeast Asia. He rightly pointed out in his speech in Mizoram.
I'll come back to you. I want to show our viewers some of the ground reports we've gotten from Manipur. The Prime Minister is about to arrive in Imphal. Let's show our viewers what Saurabh Gupta, our man on the ground in Manipur for this coverage, has just sent us from the state.
Preparations for the Prime Minister's visit on in full swing. Now, these, of course, are the barricades that are being put up from the helipad all the way to the peace ground where the Prime Minister is going to address the gathering here in Churachandpur, Manipur. Now, this, of course, is a huge visit. It comes after decades that a Prime Minister is visiting this part of Manipur, and therefore huge significance is being attached to this particular visit, as it comes in the backdrop of also the ethnic conflict in the state that began in 2023. But the Prime Minister's visit is focused on the future rather than the past. It's about the development that the union government is wanting to bring to Manipur, and also ensuring that the people of Manipur are not left out of the idea of a Viksit Bharat or a developed India. And therefore, these efforts are being showcased during the Prime Minister's visit as well. There have been some, cases where a little bit of, there were some places where this barricading was, of course, brought down last night. But again, this is all being set up for the Prime Minister's visit.
I'm from the Directorate of Environment and Climate Change Movement of Manipur. We are all responsible for this, making all this beautification part. Not only my department, Forest Department, Directorate of Environment, Climate Change, ADC Churachandpur. Since 6-7 days back, we have been engaging for all this beautification part. But unfortunately, yesterday, some unwanted things had been happened. But although the villagers have come out since last night to overtake all this beautification part again, and I think the villagers have a good cooperation, and this will have a good impact and good welcome to our Prime Minister coming tomorrow.
Generally, all of us are so delighted to welcome him, and we are preparing at our best, especially departments, government employees, and all over the people of Churachandpur.
The leaders of these communities have already put out statements welcoming the Prime Minister and of course heartily welcoming the Prime Minister, and therefore this is going to be a very, very important visit of the Prime Minister to Manipur. With camera person Azam Siddiqui in Churachandpur, Manipur, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV. Several projects are to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister or the foundation stone, welfare projects. Now, because of the conflict, Manipur's development and Manipur's progress has also suffered in the last 2 years. The government says that these projects, which are being organized, including specific projects that are aimed at the welfare of the tribal community. How do you look at that?
Right. I have not seen the details of the project, but I have heard that a huge amount of fund has been allocated for the Kukizo people, especially the tribal here in Manipur. So it's a positive sign, because one of the discontentment of the tribal people is development. So there has to be, along with our political solutions, side by side, development has to go also. So I'm sure this will also give the people confidence to the government of India.
And the government of India and specifically the Prime Minister is focused on what he calls a Viksit Bharat, which is a developed India.
Okay.
And no space or no part of the country can be left out of that program.
Okay.
If India has to develop, every part of India has to develop, including far-off places like Manipur, far-off states like Manipur in the northeast, including tribal communities in the northeast. And there's a specific focus on that. Welfare of tribals is something that the government is saying is a key part of its solution. How do you look at that?
Right, it's a positive sign, and like I said, it's a welcoming gesture from the government part, and this will bring a lot of trust in the government of India, which the people have lost. So I am very positive, and I welcome this kind of project for our land. And like I said, along with the development of the welfare of the tribal people, will comes a lasting solution for the region.
Joining me now is the chairman of the Zomi Council. Sir, very quickly, how do you see the Prime Minister's visit to the state, especially he's coming right here in Churachandpur?
The intended visit by the Prime Minister to this town, Lamka, Churachandpur district, takes place after more than 40 years. And we are very much happy to receive the Prime Minister of the country in our town, and we are going to welcome him with our heartiest greetings.
And sir, also several projects intended for the welfare of the tribal community is something that the Prime Minister's visit is likely to outline. How do you see that?
I have not seen through the details of the project, except that 7,200 crores for the development of the district will be inaugurated. So it's going to be a big deal, because in this area, a development scheme that is carried out with that much amount of money is going to give a lot of benefit to the people here. So that is most welcome, and we are happy about this.
Any specific welcome message or any specific request to the Prime Minister?
Unusually, Manipur was reeling under ethnic violence between Imphal Valley people and the hills. So the Prime Minister, when he comes around here, we would expect and we would like to request him that he should address the issue of this political division and difficulties faced by internally displaced persons, IDPs. So lots of resettlement, lots of rehabilitational works are required to be done. That has not been taken off properly. And then political delineation of Imphal Valley and the tribal has to be accorded by the central government. So that is our request also.
And the politics has escalated now after Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has fired a shot at the Prime Minister on his Manipur visit. Kharge says a 3-hour pit stop does not translate into compassion, especially if it comes 2.5 years after the Manipur crisis actually began. Mallikarjun Kharge has called the Prime Minister's Manipur roadshow a cowardly escape. He's just put out on social media, the Congress president. He says your 3-hour pit stop in Manipur is not compassion. It's farce, tokenism, and a grave insult to a wounded people. Your so-called roadshow in Imphal and Churachandpur today is nothing but a cowardly escape from hearing the cries of people in relief camps. This hush-hush pit stop isn't repentance. It's not even guilt. You are organizing a grand welcome ceremony for yourself. It is a cruel prick to the wounds of those still suffering because of your own abdication of basic constitutional responsibilities. In the words of your own, where is your Raj Dharma? This is Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge firing a very, very aggressive and escalatory shot at the Prime Minister on his Manipur visit, even before it has actually begun. Saurabh is our man on the ground in Imphal. He joins me once again for a quick word on this. Saurabh, we were expecting this, weren't we? The politics over the Prime Minister's visit was always going to be aggressive. Priyanka Gandhi first, now Mallikarjun Kharge. I think it's going to get even more now.
Oh yes, absolutely. And the politics was always there and it's going to be there. And of course, this is something that we've seen play out in the past as well. But, you know, just to put things into perspective, before 2023, when this violence began, and not just, this is not just for Manipur, but the other northeastern states as well. In the last 10 years, you speak to anyone in the Northeast and they will tell you that when it comes to infrastructure development or connectivity, there has been tremendous development. Manipur, in the last 2 years, because of the violence, did take, those projects took time to complete. For example, even Manipur has a rail link that's being built and to connect the state capital of Imphal from Jiribam to Imphal. So obviously those projects are also underway. In fact, the rail line has already been built up to None. It already comes to a certain point during the conflict. So all of this is taking place. And Manipur, unfortunately, has been caught in a web of politics as well. And that's something that we've seen play out throughout the crisis as well. And between the Congress and the BJP, there have been, accusations and counter-accusations. The Congress says the BJP hasn't done enough. When it comes to the historical issues that plague the state, the BJP says these are legacy issues. And they were not issues that, sort of came about during our tenure in the state. But beyond that, the state is now looking forward. The state is looking at how to come out of this cycle of violence, how to have a peaceful, lasting solution and focus on development. And that's kind of going to be the focus of the Prime Minister's visit as well.
Saurabh, can you give us an update on the Prime Minister's movements right now? Has he arrived yet?
Well, the last I heard was that he was scheduled to arrive any moment in Churachandpur at the peace ground. He's going to also meet the IDPs. And remember, the IDPs are very important, the internally displaced people, because of this ethnic conflict. And there are several relief camps in the areas, surrounding the hills and the Imphal Valley. So on the agenda of the Prime Minister, something that the communities themselves have also flagged is the issues that the IDPs are facing. And therefore, both in Churachandpur and in Imphal, the first thing on the agenda of the Prime Minister is meeting the internally displaced people, the IDPs. And that's going to be a key feature of this visit because, understanding from the people who've been worst affected by the violence, who've lost their homes, who've lost everything, what it has been, for them to live under the shadow of violence is something that perhaps they will share when the Prime Minister interacts with them. And like I said, any moment now, the Prime Minister should be in Churachandpur interacting with the internally displaced people. And it's important to note that in both events in Manipur, both in Imphal and in Churachandpur, the first thing on the agenda is meeting the internally displaced people.
Saurabh, stay with me. I just want to recap for our viewers once again as the Prime Minister lands in Imphal, Manipur. I just want our viewers to know what the significance of this visit is. We appreciate that many of our viewers from different parts of the country and the world tuning in right now need a quick recap because this is an important visit, and I urge all of you to listen carefully because this is a visit that could be a turning point for Manipur. It's the first visit by the Prime Minister to Manipur since the violence, the terrible ethnic violence broke out in Manipur in May 2023. Let's keep moving. This is the Manipur visit is to pave the road to peace. That's the reason why there are many infrastructure projects being inaugurated by the Prime Minister. He's also going to be meeting some of the ethnic groups. The Prime Minister will be visiting both Churachandpur and Imphal. Imphal, remember, is the capital of Manipur. That is the valley area of Manipur. Churachandpur is the hill districts of Manipur where much of the ethnic unrest had actually taken place. A message of balance, of unity to the people is what the Prime Minister will be carrying. It's a very, very difficult and complicated message in a place where the Meitei people as well as the Kuki-Zo communities have been in a terrible and blood-drenched ethnic conflict for 2.5 years. A healing touch is what the Prime Minister is hoping to bring to the people of Manipur. He will be meeting internally displaced people. Lakhs of people have been displaced. They've gone across the border into Mizoram to refugee camps as well. The visit comes amidst government formation, speculation as well in Manipur. So all of this is taking place in Manipur at a time of great churn. The Manipur government was dissolved in February, and at this point of time there is a huge amount of speculation and suspense over what happens next in Manipur. The Prime Minister will be spending about 3 hours in Manipur today. The state is currently under governor's rule, which means central rule, and therefore law and order, security, etc. is all under the central government, under the Modi government. Now let's just quickly tell you what the Prime Minister will be inaugurating in Manipur, because remember, infrastructure, upgrading facilities in the state is of huge importance to try and bring even a semblance of normalcy after 2.5 years of violence. Projects worth about 7,500 crore are to be inaugurated and unveiled by the Prime Minister. Road and National Highway project in Manipur, which is a state that has seen lots of blockades in the last 2.5 years. This is actually a very good sign because it means supply chain movement, access to urban areas. A civil secretariat in Mantripukri is also going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. This is, of course, going to be paving the way towards government formation in the state. The infrastructure boost is obviously a big thing on the agenda for the Prime Minister. A special economic zone, an IT special economic zone building at Mantripukri is also going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. A police headquarters in the area will also be unveiled by Prime Minister Modi while he is there. An all-women's market in some districts is going to be also unveiled in the area. So this is a quick recap, a useful recap of what the Prime Minister plans to achieve in the very short time. There's politics over it. You've got Mallikarjun Kharge calling it a tiny little pit stop in Manipur. But in those 3 hours, as you can see, the Prime Minister will be packing in a great deal. Okay, let's go across now to our guests who will help us understand what is essentially a very, very complicated issue. Rajat Sethi, political analyst. Professor Kishalai Bhattacharjee is a senior journalist and commentator, and Aizawl is a senior journalist as well. Thank you for being with me. Rajat, I want to quickly come to you first. All of the three voices we have here on NDTV are people who, with a deep knowledge and a deep experience of looking at what has happened in Manipur and in the Northeast in general. Rajat, I want to start with you. I want to put the politics aside for a moment, but to get your opening thoughts of why today is so significant. Much has been said about why the Prime Minister has not gone to Manipur so far. It's been 2.5 years. We've seen the political barbs already land, but in terms of just the significance of the Prime Minister going there and what he really wants to achieve, your reading of it, Rajat.
Thank you, Shiv, for having me on your show. Clearly, for the past 2 years, we've been waiting for this moment when the peace and relative violence-free days can be added up in a way that there are no major events, and we could have the Prime Minister come in and address both the communities. I believe what has happened after the President's rule has been imposed, there has been 3 or 4 months of relative quiet. There has also been a lot of common ground for negotiations to succeed being created by the central government's intervention, and that has helped reach to a point where the Prime Minister, the highest political office in our country, to come down and interact with both the communities, and from here onwards create a path which is very concrete towards measurable success in integrating both the communities together and forging greater trust between two communities. Please understand, while the politicians might comment, please understand that Manipur has been a state where ethnic conflicts, even more severe conflicts, had been the mainstay of the state. We never used to hear about this in the news, but that was the norm of Manipur. And I believe, it was really unfortunate what happened in 2023. But I believe, and both the communities have paid huge personal losses through this exercise. But now, Prime Minister is going there, and I believe people will leave their bygones and try and look at cultivating together this common ground that has been created between the two communities. Again, people who have lost their lives, people who have lost their belongings and everything, it's very hard to fill in those voids. But somewhere the start has to be made. And I think this is where it is truly historic.
Ms. Aizawl, how are you seeing the Prime Minister's visit? What are you hoping it is going to achieve? NDTV, we have tracked very closely the terrible extremes of the violence that has consumed parts of Manipur for the better half of 3 years now. What is your reading of today's visit? What are you hoping it will achieve?
Yeah, good afternoon, Shiv. Thank you for having me. Today marks 497 days after the conflict started. It's easy to say too little, too late, but I shall not wander in that path and understand that silence and inaction has no more space. And the fact that he's going there, I would like to imagine that this will be the beginning. And also he's come with a lot of dreams, and a lot of dreams for people, and high-sounding words like, things that we're going to do for the healing touch.
Okay, that's a bit of a shaky line that we have with Hoinu. Unfortunately, we'll try and go back to her. But Professor Bhattacharjee, if I could come to you right now with that same questioning, your opening thoughts on this. The Prime Minister is about to arrive in Imphal. Your opening thoughts, just give us a general overview of how you see this visit and what you're hoping it will achieve. Keeping the politics of all of it aside, what do you think it will achieve, sir?
I think, Shiv, of course, I'll be very curious, like anyone else, of why the government decided to, or the Prime Minister decided to take such a long time to visit. There must be a reason. But it is a huge opportunity for the state, for the Prime Minister, for everyone studying Manipur, because he has the ability to be able to give this healing touch. Now, having said that, it has been a century-old policy of the centers, in the Northeast, even since British times, to try and appease and broker peace through money or through benefits, and that hasn't worked really. And I think policymakers need to take a good hard look at it, because this is not the first time that such benefits and such projects were rolled out. So rolling out projects could buy peace, good for them, but I would be skeptical about it. So I think there should be policymakers in the North Bloc actually studying and addressing the root problems. The problem out here, of course, there are several problems. The first, internally displaced people. He will be meeting them. They need rehabilitation. We need free movement across the state for all communities, and that he must absolutely ensure. But I think where we need to caution ourselves and the government must be seized of the problem is that the rise of the civilian guerrillas. So far, over the last 50 years, Manipur, what Rajat was mentioning, yes, there was a situation of underground armed militia. But the rise of a civilian militia seizing weapons, state weapons, retaining those weapons, and continuing to almost fill in the absent state. Now, that absent state needs to be taken over by the state. I think that should be right on top of the agenda. If he's inaugurating 20 projects, the number one project should be able to say that we are in control. We will reinstate a government, have election, whatever, but the state has to come in and say that we exist. Yeah. Right now, it's an absent state, and I don't think so. The situation on the ground, your reporters will be able to tell you, well, yeah. I don't think so the people are expecting anything in terms of healing, in terms of free movement, in terms of the civil war ending anytime soon. The Prime Minister, however, has the ability to be able to resolve these problems. That's what I think, Sri.
I think that's a very good assessment, Professor Bhattacharjee. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone is expecting any miracles or big takeaways, but symbols matter. There will be the politics and the and the surround sound around this visit, but many will be expecting this to be some kind of a turning point, perhaps, in Manipur. It's going to be a slow march back to normalcy, but most people will be hoping that this can be one milestone towards a more positive outcome. Hoinu, we lost you for a moment. My apologies for that. Go ahead and complete your point, ma'am.
Yeah, today marks the 497 days. It would be easy to say it was too late, too little, but I don't want to go down that route.
Yeah.
Any beginning, it's welcome, and we are happy that he has finally found time to come and be in the midst of people who have lost their homes. And I just wanted to understand that people should not be lured away just saying that he's come with a 7,300 CR amount of infrastructure development. I also want to understand very clearly where art is going to be placed. Is it going to be the same format of Imphal centric, which shouldn't be? So I hope that they have learned at least some ground realities and understand that development has to be, inclusive. Like he said, he's going there with an inclusive and overall development for Manipur. So I want to understand if all those things will now apply there. And I'm also a little concerned that, the basic problems of people who are displaced have not been addressed at all, in a way that there should be special rehabilitation and reconstruction package. That is something that I really want the PM's visit to address. And also, of course, the root cause, and practically understand from both sides what is it that ails them. Is there any political rearrangement that needs to be done? I think it's also time to really talk about uncomfortable issues and find a way forward from now. That it should not be just a token visit, a ceremonial token visit. It shouldn't end there, but uncomfortable questions, uneasy questions that may not immediately find answers, other things that should be addressed right now, and this is the moment to do those.
Rajat, you wanted to come in on that? No easy answers, but there is a very positive intent to what the Prime Minister is hoping to achieve here, despite all the surround sound around the fact that he hasn't come for over 2 years. This is a complicated issue. This was an issue which has a genesis that was beyond what the government was doing. This happened in a court. This is a part of the country that the Prime Minister, we know for a fact, has attached a very special significance to. He's visited the Northeast more times, according to some reports, than most other Prime Ministers combined. So that is something that can't be mistaken at all. But now the point is how to look forward towards a better outcome in Manipur. What's your reading of that, Rajat?
Absolutely. See, I think the central government with all its agencies have far more information and knowledge about the ground situations where, analysts who, like all of us who come on television, we don't have the full view. So what are those back channel discussions, deliberations to reach to a culmination point where the Prime Minister can go? Because also keep in mind that Prime Minister is the final last political authority. And if things don't get resolved at his level or at his office's level, then there is no hope left. So a lot of groundwork has to be done so that once the prime minister goes and some kind of a finality has to be reached. We have to understand that it is not a simple visit that you go and do for tourism purpose. There are lives at stake at both the sides. The amount of hectic effort that has gone in, not just in the past few months, but more than a year and a half, have gone in actually helping the two communities climb down from their very, very stiff position.
Yeah.
And by the way, Shiv, let me tell you, it's only happened over the last few days that both the communities, the Meitei community said that the militant, the Sioux arrangement, the suspension of operation arrangement with the Kuki militants can be can be re-entered into. That was a point that Meiteis were not agreeing to. So they agreed to that. Second, the Kukis also, they also gave their stiff position that there would be, a separate administration. They have also climbed down from their core position to create this environment where the prime minister can go and have a genuine heart-to-heart conversation. Otherwise, you can go, do picture optics and all of that and come back.
Yeah.
It will not heal the situation there because this situation is not the creation of 2023. There are three communities, the Meiteis, Kukis, and the Nagas. All the three communities in all permutations have fought with each other, and there are deep mistrust between them. And therefore, if this mistrust has to be resolved, fundamental insecurities between the communities have to be addressed, and long deliberations have to be done in order to reach to that conclusion. So my point is, give the benefit of doubt to the central government who is privy of this matter, who are privy to the absolute complexities that go in negotiating these positions.
Professor Bhattacharjee, on the specific points raised by Rajat, that work is being done, there has been a climb down in certain positions. Things are far from normal, but it's not like nothing has been done and suddenly the Prime Minister is just flying in like his political rivals would have us believe, but that this is inherently a difficult situation, but that work is on and there are some small visible signs that things may be getting a little better. In addition to what, of course, you are saying, Professor Bhattacharjee.
Shiv, I'll still maintain my position of skepticism, not for political reasons, but to be able to put on record that I think for the last 75 years, whether it was for the longest period duration the Congress government and then the BJP government and their policy makers, I don't think so they've read it right, because I, for the longest time, covered Manipur, and I imagined that there were people who were in the North Bloc and as joint secretary and secretaries of Northeast who knew the place and who knew the issues very well. Today, I look back and I realize that probably they just got it wrong. And there was this in 2015. I remember a retired director of the Intelligence Bureau said something which is almost prophetic, saying that the last 20 years we had armed insurgency, which was partly separatist, secessionist, or also, many of them demanding greater autonomy. The next 20 years, we are going to see bloody ethnic feud between communities living next to each other. I think, there was enough intel about what was coming. And I don't think we took it seriously, as a nation, as government, as policy makers, also, Shiv, to give an international angle to it. Let's not forget what has been happening in Myanmar, which borders Churachandpur and Manipur in various other, across the border. What's been happening in Myanmar for years now. There is a civil war going on out there. What has happened in Bangladesh should not be lost on us. What's happening in Nepal should not be lost on us. And I think Manipur cannot be allowed to be made into a laboratory for, earlier it was a laboratory for trying out insurgency, counter-insurgency measures. Now it seems to be a laboratory for ethnic, to be able to how to resolve ethnic problems out there. Now, these are conspiracy theories. I wouldn't like to ascribe, to believe in them, but it seems like no one actually is reading what's happening on the ground. The Kukis and the Meiteis we are talking about, don't forget that there is a very strong third party out there, the Nagas. The Prime Minister Modi comes to power in 2014. 2015, his first big project was to announce the Naga Peace Accord with Chisi and Su out there. Both of them were alive then. with the IB Special Director, who was the former IB Special Director R.N. Ravi, who's your Tamil Nadu governor now. And, Mr. Doval's greatest, feather on the cap was solving the Mizoram insurgency. He knows the Northeast better than anyone else. What exactly has happened to the Naga Peace Accord since 2015? It's been languishing. Nothing has moved ahead. So going with these things, I'm saying I would caution. All I'm saying is that
I take your point, Professor Bhattacharjee. I don't think anyone here is sitting and waving their hands and saying there are going to be massive visible and optical takeaways. We are all being very, very calibrated in what to expect because we accept that this is a complicated issue. Rajat, the live pictures coming in now. The Prime Minister will be arriving in Churachandpur very shortly, but you want to respond to some of the issues raised by Professor Bhattacharjee. You don't agree with some of them, I know, but what's your view on that? We are all being moderate today. We know for a fact that it's not going to be a big flourish or a huge announcement or a big takeaway in that sense. Everyone is looking at this with cautious optimism, even skepticism. We all share that as well. I'm sure Rajat does as well. Rajat, you want to answer?
See, while we can debate on despondency, but policymakers don't think like that. They have to take concrete steps. I can tell you that over the past couple of years, the amount of back channel conversations that have happened with very prominent stakeholders from both the communities have been nothing less than a genuine heart-to-heart outreach. But there are gaps. I can understand. Even last night, for that matter, there were violence on the streets in Churachandpur. In Churachandpur is not an easy place to go. For 40 years, no prime minister has gone there. You can imagine it is right next to Myanmar. It is right next to the absolute hotspot of illegal insurgents actually coming in and crossing the border. There is violence that happened last night. There are severe security challenges in that region. And still the Prime Minister is going just to ensure that it is not seen that he is only going to Imphal and coming back. So he's making that outreach. Both the communities are putting in a lot of effort, but there will be miscreants. There will be cross-border, peddling of certain sentiments in this area to further push their agenda. No, who wants peace in that part of the country other than India? Nobody else. It is surrounded by around 4 or 5 countries on all sides. Nobody's interest is to see that area flourishing. So therefore, the challenges are of huge proportions, but you need to keep hope. You cannot be that despondent wherein ki na hua hai, aage kuch na hoga, aage kuch. I mean, the two communities will only fight. That is unfair. Even on the Naga Accord, let me tell you, there are still conversations going on. There will be a way to reach to certain sticky points, which is shared sovereignty and certain other terminologies which are being played around by the Nagas also, which is very dear to them. Again, I'm not belittling their cause.
Yes.
And so is India's position. They have climbed down from 370. They cannot climb up back on 371 articles. So these issues require deft handling. Maybe an officer cannot handle, then a new officer will come. There will be continuous effort that would be done. Governments will come and go. But these certain central issues, India cannot be seen as creating a state within a state.
Yeah.
Be it Manipur, be it Nagaland, and hence whatever it takes in terms of negotiations will carry on.
Hoinu, the conversations that the Prime Minister is going to have in Churachandpur, with the affected communities, with internally displaced persons, these are going to be crucial conversations, are they not? Beyond the optics, beyond the photo ops, beyond the politics of what is happening, these are small conversations that can make a huge difference, Hoinu.
Yes, definitely. This conversation, the fact that he is going there itself will warm a lot of hearts. But what remains to be seen is it should be followed up with action and a proper intent that he's come with something for the people. It should not be, like I said, it should not be just a token visit. For instance, at the core of this are the people who still need to go home, whichever, whether it's at the valley or in the hills. There has been no talk of resettlement and reconstruction of people's life. So that's something very important, because at the core of this are people whose life has been impacted. And they are the people who are, who are the suffering end of the whole the conflict. So I think it's very important that he announced something concrete for them. And also, if they, I mean, people have been watching to see that, let's see if, if the conflict dies down on its own. We have seen it for the past 2.5 years. The divide seems to be stronger. So it absolutely calls for a more, an effort that would discuss an instrument that should address that. So I think it's time that we address the realities of those, and those are not featuring anywhere. And of course, there has been a lot of backdoor channels and in informal dialogue where I have also been a part of many things. But I'm just wondering, have they been, have they contributed to any blueprint or any decision that is being played out? So I think there is a certain ambiguity in the whole thing, how it is being handled. One, people, of course, are doubting the intent and the sincerity of the center, because people who have been in that hellhole continues to be there. So unless and until these basic things are discussed, people are not going to be swayed.
Okay. Rajat, I'm going to come back to you to talk about that in just a moment, about doubts over the intent of the central government. Could they or should they have done more? Is an eternal question that will be asked. I'll come to you right after we have a piece of breaking news. The Prime Minister has just arrived in Churachandpur, which is in the hill districts of Manipur. This is an area that is dominated by the Kuki-Zo community. The Meitei community, of course, is in the valley areas of Imphal, where Saurabh joins us from. The Prime Minister, Saurabh, has reached Churachandpur, which is one of the places in Manipur that was worst hit by the ethnic unrest. Just take us very quickly through what the Prime Minister will be doing there, Saurabh.
Well, most importantly, like we've been reporting, he's going to meet the IDPs, or the internally displaced people. And Churachandpur and the areas around Churachandpur, especially in the valley and in the hills, these are places that have seen a lot of violence. I've been to places like Sugnu, I've been to places like Churachandpur, and in fact, I spent a night in that very specific border area between the Imphal Valley and the hills near Churachandpur. And the kind of violence that took place at that time, today, I will say that it's not as bad as what it was when the violence started. There has definitely been some improvement in the situation, and that's perhaps what sets the path forward. It sets the groundwork to work on other things like, for example, getting these development projects off the ground. And most importantly, let's not forget, in both places, Imphal and in Churachandpur, the Prime Minister, as a first measure during his visit, is meeting the internally displaced people. And that's something that is key, because remember, the focus has to be on the people of Manipur, and the people of Manipur have to be given the hope. And that is something that everyone's talking about, and even our panelists have been talking about that. Look, I mean, it's a first step. And like you've been saying, we've been calibrated. We're not expecting any big sort of takeaways right after the Prime Minister's visit. But it is a first step. The Prime Minister is going to Churachandpur. The last Prime Minister to go there was, Rajiv Gandhi.
Yeah. Saurabh, very quickly, a side question. You're completely drenched. Is it raining in Imphal right now?
Oh, yes, it's been raining very heavily in Churachandpur and in Imphal.
Yeah.
In fact, the Prime Minister's original plan had to be changed around a bit because of the heavy rains. And despite the weather, the weather not supporting the Prime Minister's usual mode of travel, the Prime Minister has made it to Churachandpur and is expected here. Right behind me is the Kangla Fort. And the Kangla Fort is where he'll be meeting the IDPs in the valley. And the Prime Minister is expected to complete that program in Churachandpur's peace ground. And then he's going to come here to the Kangla Fort and then, attend the program here, which will be not only meeting the IDPs, but also inauguration of development projects worth over 1,200 crore in Imphal. And of course, the foundation stone laying ceremony for development projects worth 7,300 crore in Churachandpur after he meets the IDPs there. So that's largely the Prime Minister's program before he heads out of the state. But like, again, the panelists have pointed out, that there's an effort to ensure that, look, this is not an Imphal-centric visit.
Yes.
This is not, where the Prime Minister just drops in and goes. He's going to both places despite the challenges of weather and ensuring that he attends both programs as well.
At a time when there is a lot of legitimate skepticism and cautious optimism, rather, as to what is going to be achieved, the acknowledgement that there are small steps to be taken and it's going to be a long road to normalcy. Today is a good day. It's a positive day. The Prime Minister's conversations will have hopefully a positive impact among these communities. And the rain there, which has obviously played truant as far as changing plans and forcing the Prime Minister to actually travel by road. As a good Indian citizen, I'm going to see it as being auspicious. It's an auspicious day. Live pictures coming in now from Churachandpur of the Prime Minister being felicitated by local children. Beautiful images of the Prime Minister meeting with them. Quickly want to tell our viewers that there's no audio in these pictures yet. There will be in a short moment from now, and I'll then let you hear what the Prime Minister is saying to the children here. Just want to confirm to our viewers that this is, I think this is Churachandpur where these images are taking place. I'm just going to get a confirmation for you on the location. Going to ask our producers, Churachandpur in Manipur. This is where the Prime Minister is right now. He's meeting with children from a school and a center there, and very, very important images. These images are going to be emblazoned in the minds of the people of Manipur. The Prime Minister's first visit since May 2023, when the worst ethnic conflict in the state actually broke out. This has been an eternal topic of politics in the run-up to this visit. And the Prime Minister now, in his element really, the Prime Minister attaches a great deal of importance in interacting personally with the young, with children, with youth, who he consistently calls the future of the country. And nowhere perhaps is it more important than in a state like Manipur, where the parents of the many of the children you see in these pictures may have actually been participants or victims in the ethnic strife that has consumed the state and put it on a global map for all the wrong reasons. The Prime Minister there listening to a generation which will hopefully be growing up in a more peaceful Manipur, because the last 2.5 years of their lives of these very young Manipuris have been filled with uncertainty, filled with anxiety over what the future really holds as far as opportunity is concerned, about pretty much just having a normal childhood. All of the children on your screen, I can confirm to you, are displaced persons, children of displaced families. They have all been victims of the ethnic strifes between the Meitei and Kuki-Zo communities, between the valley and the hill districts. What you're seeing right now is in the hill districts. All of these children at this care center belong to families that have been victims of violence, and they've been displaced as well. And so the Prime Minister meeting each one of them, having a few words to say to each one of them, spending some time with them, interacting with them. This isn't just a photo opportunity. I can guarantee you this, that each of these tiny little interactions with each of these children will stay with them, will stay with the Prime Minister as well. The Prime Minister acknowledges and recognizes that this is a minefield of an issue to navigate. It has been difficult to resolve it in 2.5 years. It is going to take a much longer time than that to resolve it completely, because there has been a complete war-like breakdown of trust between the two big communities of Manipur. But in these children lies the hope of a more peaceful future. In these children who've actually seen the violence, who should not have had to see that violence and experience it as part of their childhood, the Prime Minister and the central government will be hoping to see the first light of dawn, and hopefully a break from what the last 2.5 years and the history of ethnic tensions in Manipur really will be able to evaporate. All of our guests continue to be with us, and I want to bring them in on some of these pictures. Rajat, to you first. Beautiful images of the Prime Minister interacting with children, victims of violence in Churachandpur. How important are these pictures? The Prime Minister having a chat with each of these children. It's an organized event, of course, but very nice to see these, because these are also the first interactions of this kind between the Prime Minister and the people of Manipur in Manipur. Rajat.
So, Shiv, there are roughly around 50,000 IDPs, I suppose, put together, and reaching out to the family members and the children who've either been orphaned, or women who have lost their husbands, or husbands who've lost their partners. All of this is heart-wrenching, what has happened to them over the past few years now. And Prime Minister, would be making a very heart-to-heart conversations with each one of them, understanding what would it take to get them back to where they came from, their original homes, ensuring that whatever fear they might still be lingering onto them, onto the imprint that it had on their mind and their hearts, can be addressed to some extent. What healing touch that the Prime Minister can, through his assurances, can provide. The entire state administration is there, right from the governor to all the key government bureaucrats, ensuring that they heed to Prime Minister's instructions that are given to ensure that we have, these small kids can go back to their home, can go back to their schools, can go back to their playgrounds. That would be of utmost importance. Prime Minister has come, and he has a plan of action, and I believe he would ensure that the government follows the advice. He will ensure that he reaches out to the two communities and their civil societies to ensure that the safety and security of these young future of our country is provided. They're provided with a safe haven when they go back to their respective homes, and we can start off life where it stopped on the 2nd of May 2023. That would be a wish that we all Indians would have for all these future young kids out there and the future of our nation.
Very, very, very true. I think these pictures are evocative beyond the skepticism that many will show towards this particular visit, because these little conversations matter. The general signal that is sent out, the symbolism of the Prime Minister meeting with the young children who should have no place in such a conflict, whose childhood should have absolutely no bearing or echo of the bloodletting that has taken place between the communities, is an unthinkable horror that this country has had to endure. And these are children of the Kuki community in Churachandpur that the Prime Minister is meeting, having a chat with, spending some time with before he heads back to Imphal. Hoinu, I want to bring you in on this. The power of pictures, the power of conversations, baby steps, nothing dramatic, but the little things that matter. These are important pictures, Hoinu.
Absolutely. They also bring in moral legitimacy to say that I see your pain, I'm here. And we are watching from here on to understand that this is just a beginning of what will follow into a journey of repair, restoration, and rebuilding. So we hope that this is the start.
Okay, we've lost that link again. I think Hoinu, can you hear me? Go ahead, we can hear you.
Important and very powerful. Of course, no point saying that I wish it had happened then, but I guess there's time and place for everything. I hope that this is the beginning of a journey for repair, restore, and to rebuild. And I hope that there would be no looking back. That he's come here, he understood, and I'm sure there'll be petitions and discussions to follow after the visit. And those should be looked at with intent, and they should be executed now. And this is really the beginning, I must say. And I'm watching, and I'm sure all of us will be watching.
Yes, that's right. And Saurabh, I want to bring Saurabh back in on this, because he's in Imphal. The Prime Minister will be traveling from Churachandpur to Imphal, where he will be inaugurating projects and meeting with internally displaced persons and members of the Maithi community as well. There, Saurabh, as a reporter, you have traveled to all corners of Manipur during this conflict. Over the last 2.5 years, you've had extensive reporting time in the worst hit parts of Manipur, including in Churachandpur. And I've seen those reports of yours, Saurabh. In that context, how significant, symbolic and important are these images of the Prime Minister interacting with the victims of violence from the Kuki community in Churachandpur, Saurabh?
Extremely, hugely significant given the fact that these are the people who've seen the worst of the conflict. These are the people who've lost their homes. These are the people to whom the calm, reassuring words will matter, and they will remember it. And that's why for the Prime Minister to go to these camps, to meet these IDPs, the internally displaced persons, is extremely significant. And to add to that, it's not just happening in Churachandpur, it's happening there as part of the tribal district. It's going to happen here as well. Right behind me is the iconic gate of the Kangla Fort. Once the Prime Minister is done with the program in Churachandpur, and these images, of course, of him meeting the internally displaced persons is extremely significant. Once he's done that, there he's going to come here and meet another set of internally displaced people here as well. So it's extremely significant. The violence, of course, is something that we've covered, we've seen. For nights, people have gone without sleep, people have lost their loved ones. And to have the Prime Minister come and visit, of course, he's come today, and that's something that's going to be important for the people, because from what I understand, and even yesterday when I was speaking to some of the community leaders, they say that this is something that gives us hope. Hope that the government is concerned, hope that the Prime Minister is concerned, and hope that the Prime Minister and the government, the union government, now Manipur is under governor's rule, is looking at ways to try and find a solution. How long that will take, when will that happen, how will that happen, those are things that are in nobody's control. But the fact that the Prime Minister is visiting, making the IDPs the center point of his visit, interacting with them, is something that's of huge, huge significance.
Saurabh, stay with me. Aarti is joining us on our coverage as we take things forward. Aarti, the Prime Minister is on stage right now. He will be inaugurating some projects. I think he's going to be making a short speech as well, honoring some members of that community. Very, very important pictures here in Churachandpur. There's a big audience there for the Prime Minister as well. Everyone's going to be hanging on to every word, Aarti.
Absolutely, Shiv. Now, like we were talking about earlier, I think the importance of these images is that it's not theatrics. Because earlier as well, as the opposition is putting out the fact that Prime Minister hadn't visited for so long, and that's the main contention when it comes to politics over this as well. The fact that he has visited now after the meetings have taken place, meetings immediately with the Home Minister, and ensuring that the situation is peaceful first before theatrics on the ground and visiting first just for photo ops.
Very, very true. I think the Prime Minister's words are going to be hugely crucial. The event has just begun. Let's just try and listen in for a moment. The Prime Minister will be introduced now. He will have some words to say as well. Just going to do a quick check over whether there's audio in from the ground. Yes, there is some audio. Let's just cut across and listen in for a moment.
It is with deep respect and great pride that I stand before you today in the historic, vibrant town of Churachandpur on the occasion of the Honorable Prime Minister's visit to this beautiful state of Manipur. मैं हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का हमारे राज्य में आगमन और हम सभी के बीच उपस्थित होने के लिए हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी एक रोड से लंबी जर्नी करके आज आपके बीच में उपस्थित हुए हैं, उनको एक बार तहे दिल से इसका भी शुक्रिया करता हूं। Churachandpur is not just a geographical location, it's a symbol of rich cultural diversity, resilience and the spirit of unity. The people of this land, representing a mosaic of tribal and ethnic communities, have for generations contributed to the social, cultural and economic fabric of our state and our nation. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आज आपकी यहाँ उपस्थिति चुरचांदपुर और पूरे मणिपुर राज्य के लोगों के लिए अपार प्रेरणा और प्रोत्साहन का सोर्स है। समावेशी विकास, सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास के प्रति आपकी प्रतिबद्धता इस क्षेत्र के लोगों की आकांक्षाओं के साथ गहराई से प्रतिध्वनित होती है। आपके दूरदर्शी नेतृत्व में पूर्वोत्तर को मार्जिन से मुख्य धारा में लाया गया है। द फोकस ऑन कनेक्टिविटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, डिजिटल एक्सेस, एजुकेशन एंड हेल्थ केयर has brought hope and new opportunities to our youth. Today, as we look forward, we also acknowledge the challenges that we must face together. Challenges of peace, development and trust. Today is the time to heal and help and look forward. With dialogue, understanding and inclusive governance, I am confident that Manipur will emerge resilient, more united and prosperous. हम सभी अपने समाज को शांति, प्रगति और तीव्र विकास के लिए एक जीवंत स्थान बनाने में योगदान दें. Bringing development to remotest corner and reaching out to the last mile is one of the cornerstones of Viksit Bharat, which calls for inclusive growth. Churachandpur district has always been among one of the top priorities of the state. Being a border district, the government is committed to provide connectivity and essential infrastructure to the furthest hamlet for overall development. At the same time, we as citizens of this country have a bounden duty to safeguard our country and its interests. We cannot afford our land to be encroached or be allowed to be illegally inhabited by people from beyond the borders. Both the state and central government are committed to take effective steps to address this challenge. I would also like to mention about recent natural calamities, especially the cloudburst and flash floods that cut off several villages of Hanglap area of Churachandpur. To deal with this, Operation Sahyog was launched by the Assam Rifles, Indian Air Force and District Administration to supply over 6 tons of essential relief to 18 remote villages in Hanglap, cut off due to landslides. This swift, coordinated response reached 1,500 villagers with vital rations and supplies. A 3-phase resettlement plan for internally displaced persons is being taken up to settle them at the earliest. Additional security personnel and quick response teams were deployed to further bolster safety and stability. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आज यहाँ आपकी उपस्थिति आशा की किरण है और साथ ही शांति एवं समावेशी विकास के प्रति केंद्र सरकार की अटूट प्रतिबद्धता की पुष्टि भी है. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आपकी उपस्थिति और समर्थन से इस क्षेत्र को खास तवज्जो मिलेगी और इसका मान बढ़ेगा, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है, जिसके लिए मैं यहाँ की जनता की तरफ से और राज्य सरकार की तरफ से तहे दिल से आज आपकी उपस्थिति के लिए आपका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ. जय हिंद, जय मणिपुर.
Ajay Kumar Bhalla, the governor of Manipur, setting the stage for the Prime Minister's first words in Manipur today. Remember, he's just met with victims of violence, all young children from the Kukizo community in Churachandpur. The Prime Minister will be saying a few words as well, and these are going to be extremely, extremely significant. This will be his first direct words to the people of Manipur since the ethnic conflict actually began. Remember, the Prime Minister has spoken in Parliament. He's spoken on various other forums as well about what has happened in Manipur. But this is the first time that the Prime Minister will be speaking to the people of Manipur from Manipur itself. And that is hugely significant. Saurabh continues to be with us. Saurabh, as we wait for the Prime Minister to take the podium and speak, how important is this? You know, you've been having conversations with people from both sides of this terrible ethnic divide. How important is it going to be for them sitting there in the audience, watching their television screens in Manipur, Saurabh, to listen to the Prime Minister today?
Many of them say that they followed everything that the Prime Minister has said very keenly on Manipur when it comes to Manipur. But they do feel that it is something special. It is something that, gives them a sense of confidence that, it is important for the central government, for the Prime Minister, that they matter, that the government cares about their welfare. And the fact that the Prime Minister is coming here is something that is a sentiment that prevails across a lot of people. There may be, issues on which they have complaints, but again, they are saying that the Prime Minister's visit essentially gives us a platform to raise our issues, B, direct engagement. Now the IDPs who are there, the internally displaced people, have had direct access to the Prime Minister. And to be able to talk to the Prime Minister directly is something that any citizen, any aggrieved citizen would feel very, very hopeful about. And that's exactly what this is. And it's not just happening, like I said, the Prime Minister's schedule has been very carefully decided. It has been decided keeping in mind the sentiments of both the communities. He's going to meet and, of course, address. He's met the IDPs in Churachandpur. He's addressing in a short while from now. And, of course, he'll come back here to Imphal from there and meet the IDPs here as well and address a gathering here at Kangla Fort as well, behind me.
Absolutely, Saurabh. And like you mentioned, the fact that they're able to interact with the Prime Minister directly makes them feel heard now. And also, do you think this is a step forward in terms of peace, in terms of the lasting peace that is the main focus when it comes to the government's plan for Manipur?
Yes, and there are multiple aspects to that. The situation from what it was in 2023 to today. I've been here a couple of times, in fact, seen the worst of the violence. Now, definitely, it's not as bad, but there are issues. For example, the opening of the highway. That's something that perhaps could see maybe a quicker solution than some of the other issues that are there. So these are things that obviously would be communicated through channels as well. But for the IDPs, for people who've lost their homes, their families, their loved ones in the violence, to be able to share that, with the Prime Minister directly is something that they value and they have welcomed very heartily, and they welcomed the Prime Minister's visit. And, just as a side comment, there were concerns. Even the weather was a concern of whether, this would happen or not. But, it has happened, and in spite of the heavy rain, the Prime Minister has made it to Churachandpur and is expected to make it here to the Kangla Fort right behind me in Imphal as well.
I think it's important that you pointed that out. You're right, Saurabh, the rain threw things into disarray a little bit. But I think this, one thing we can all agree on, Aarti, as well, is that this visit by the Prime Minister, and the video you're watching playing out on our screen is being played at the venue where the Prime Minister will be speaking in just a moment from now, so just stand by for that. But we can all agree that this trip could not be postponed. This visit was not going to be disrupted in any manner. The level of importance, the level of planning and preparation and security and all the other logistics that have gone into this visit, given all the complications, just the situation on the ground there in Manipur has meant that this was something that was a very, very high priority for Prime Minister Modi personally, for the government in general, for the Home Ministry, for the National Security Advisor's Office. This was something that needed to be done. It was always a bit of a ticking clock as to how long it would take before the Prime Minister actually got there, and therefore weather was not going to really disrupt it. But Aarti, amazing pictures from Manipur. It's a state I've traveled to as well extensively. Certainly not as much as Saurabh, but an amazing state, but also a vulnerable state. It has a border with Myanmar as well. There are tensions taking place on that aspect as well. So there are all these many different dimensions to what is happening in Manipur today. And that's one of the reasons why this visit is so important and why these pictures are so important.
Absolutely, Shiv. Like you mentioned, the fact that this visit was planned so intricately, like Saurabh was telling us, every single visit or every person he's meeting, the displaced people, their families, all of them have been brought together and they've been waiting for the Prime Minister to visit as well. Like you've mentioned, all eyes have been on this visit and it could not have been postponed. And like you were mentioning earlier, I think what most people are waiting for is to hear the Prime Minister's words, because he's directly going to be addressing the people there in Manipur. And this would then be a step forward for peace, which is, I think, the Prime Minister is addressing now. Let's cut across.
श्रीमान अजय भल्ला जी, राज्य प्रशासन के अन्य अधिकारीगण और इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित मणिपुर के मेरे भाई और बहनों, आप सबको नमस्कार। मणिपुर की ये धरती हौसलों और हिम्मत की धरती है। ये हिल्स प्रकृति का अनमोल उपहार है और साथ ही ये हिल्स आप सभी लोगों की निरंतर मेहनत का भी प्रतीक है। मैं मणिपुर के लोगों के जज्बे को सैल्यूट करता हूं। इतनी भारी बारिश में भी आप इतनी बड़ी संख्या में यहां आए, मैं आपके इस प्यार के लिए आपका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। भारी बारिश के कारण मेरा हेलीकॉप्टर नहीं आ पाया, तो मैंने सड़क मार्ग से आना तय किया और आज मैं सड़क पर जो दृश्य देखे तो मेरा मन कहता है कि परमात्मा ने अच्छा किया कि मेरा हेलीकॉप्टर आज नहीं चला और मैं रोड से आया और जो रास्ते भर तिरंगा हाथ में लेकर के अबाल वृद्ध सबने जो प्यार दिया, जो अपनापन दिया, मेरे जीवन में मैं इस पल को कभी नहीं भूल सकता। मैं मणिपुर वासियों का सर झुका करके नमन करता हूं। साथियों, इस क्षेत्र की संस्कृति और परंपराएं, यहां की विविधता और वाइब्रेंसी भारत का बहुत बड़ा सामर्थ्य है और मणिपुर के तो नाम में ही मणि है। ये वो मणि है जो आने वाले समय में पूरे नॉर्थ ईस्ट की चमक को बढ़ाने वाली है। भारत सरकार का निरंतर प्रयास रहा है कि मणिपुर को विकास के रास्ते पर तेजी से आगे ले जाएं। इसी कड़ी में मैं आज यहां आप सभी के बीच आया हूं। थोड़ी देर पहले इसी मंच से करीब 7,000 करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास हुआ है। ये प्रोजेक्ट मणिपुर के लोगों की, यहां हिल्स पर रहने वाले ट्राइबल समाज की जिंदगी को और बेहतर बनाएंगे। ये आपके लिए हेल्थ और एजुकेशन की नई सुविधाओं का निर्माण करेंगे। मैं मणिपुर के आप सभी लोगों को, चुराचांदपुर के लोगों को इन परियोजनाओं के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, मणिपुर बॉर्डर से सटा राज्य है। यहां पर कनेक्टिविटी हमेशा से बहुत बड़ी चुनौती रही है। अच्छी सड़कें ना होने की वजह से आपको जो परेशानी आती रही है वो मैं भली भांति समझता हूं। इसलिए 2014 के बाद से मेरा बहुत जोर रहा कि मणिपुर की कनेक्टिविटी के लिए लगातार काम किया जाए और इसके लिए भारत सरकार ने 2 स्तर पर काम किया। पहला, हमने मणिपुर में रेल और रोड का बजट कई गुना बढ़ाया और दूसरा, शहरों के साथ ही गांवों तक भी सड़कें पहुंचाने पर जोर लगाया। साथियों, बीते वर्षों में यहां नेशनल हाईवेज पर 3,700 करोड़ रुपए 3,700 करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए गए हैं। 8,700 करोड़ की लागत से नए हाईवेज पर काम बहुत तेजी से चल रहा है। पहले यहां गांवों में पहुंचना कितना मुश्किल था, आप भी जानते हैं। अब सैकड़ों गांवों में यहां रोड कनेक्टिविटी पहुंचाई गई है। इसका बहुत अधिक लाभ पहाड़ी लोगों को, ट्राइबल गांवों को हुआ है। साथियों, हमारी सरकार के दौरान ही मणिपुर में रेल कनेक्टिविटी का विस्तार हो रहा है। जिरीबाम इंफाल रेलवे लाइन बहुत जल्द राजधानी इंफाल को नेशनल रेल नेटवर्क से जोड़ देगी। इस पर सरकार 22,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च कर रही है। 400 करोड़ की लागत से बना नया इंफाल एयरपोर्ट एयर कनेक्टिविटी को नई ऊंचाई दे रहा है। इस एयरपोर्ट से राज्य से दूसरे हिस्सों के लिए हेलीकॉप्टर सर्विसेज भी शुरू की गई है। ये बढ़ती हुई कनेक्टिविटी मणिपुर के आप सभी लोगों की सुविधाएं बढ़ा रही है। यहां के नौजवानों के लिए रोजगार के नए मौके बना रही है। साथियों, आज भारत बहुत तेजी से विकसित हो रहा है। हम बहुत जल्द दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने वाले हैं और मेरा पूरा प्रयास है कि विकास का लाभ देश के कोने कोने में पहुंचे। एक समय था जब दिल्ली से घोषणाएं होती थी और उनको यहां पहुंचते पहुंचते दशकों लग जाते थे। आज हमारा चूराचांदपुर, हमारा मणिपुर भी बाकी देश के साथ विकास कर रहा है। अब जैसे देश भर में गरीबों के लिए हमने पक्के घर बनाने की योजना शुरू की, इसका फायदा मणिपुर के भी हजारों परिवारों को मिला। यहां करीब 60,000 घर बन चुके हैं। इसी तरह इस क्षेत्र में पहले बिजली की कितनी समस्या होती थी, हमारी सरकार ने आपको इस परेशानी से मुक्ति दिलाने का प्रण लिया है। इसी का नतीजा है कि यहां मणिपुर में भी 1 लाख से अधिक परिवारों को मुफ्त बिजली कनेक्शन दिया गया है। साथियों, हमारी माताओं बहनों को पानी के लिए भी बहुत सारी मुश्किलें होती थी। इसके लिए हमने हर घर नल से जल स्कीम शुरू की। बीते सालों में 15 करोड़ से अधिक देशवासियों को नल से जल की सुविधा मिल चुकी है। मणिपुर में तो 7-8 साल पहले तक सिर्फ 25-30 हजार घरों में ही पाइप से पानी आता था, लेकिन आज यहां 3.5 लाख से अधिक घरों में नल से जल की सुविधा मिल रही है। मुझे विश्वास है कि बहुत जल्द मणिपुर के हर परिवार के घर में पाइप से पानी आने लगेगा। साथियों, पहले के समय में पहाड़ों में, ट्राइबल एरियाज में अच्छे स्कूल कॉलेज, अच्छे अस्पताल ये भी सपना होते थे। कोई बीमार हो जाए तो मरीज को अस्पताल पहुंचाते ही बहुत देर हो जाती थी। आज भारत सरकार के प्रयासों से स्थिति बदल रही है। अब चूराचांदपुरा में ही मेडिकल कॉलेज तैयार हो गया है। यहां अब नए डॉक्टर भी बन रहे हैं और स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं भी बेहतर हो रही है। आप जरा सोचिए, आजादी के अनेक दशकों तक मणिपुर के पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में मेडिकल कॉलेज नहीं था। ये काम भी हमारी सरकार ने ही किया है। हमारी सरकार पीएम डिवाइन स्कीम के तहत 5 पहाड़ी जिलों में आधुनिक हेल्थ सर्विस विकसित कर रही है। आयुष्मान भारत योजना के तहत भारत सरकार गरीबों को 5 लाख रुपए तक के मुफ्त इलाज की सुविधा भी दे रही है। मणिपुर के भी करीब 2.5 लाख मरीजों ने इस योजना के जरिए अपना मुफ्त इलाज कराया है। अगर ये मुफ्त इलाज की सुविधा ना होती तो यहां मेरे गरीब भाई बहनों को अपने इलाज पर 350 करोड़ रुपए खुद के जेब से खर्च करने पड़ते। लेकिन ये सारा खर्च भारत सरकार ने उठाया है। वो इसलिए क्योंकि हर गरीब की चिंता को दूर करना हमारी प्राथमिकता है। साथियों, मणिपुर की ये धरती, ये क्षेत्र आशा और उम्मीद की भूमि है। लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से हिंसा ने इस शानदार इलाके को अपनी चपेट में ले लिया था। थोड़ी देर पहले मैं उन प्रभावित लोगों से मिला हूं जो कैंप्स में रह रहे हैं। उनसे बातचीत के बाद मैं कह सकता हूं कि उम्मीद और विश्वास की नई सुबह मणिपुर में दस्तक दे रही है। साथियों, किसी भी स्थान पर विकास के लिए शांति की स्थापना बहुत जरूरी है। बीते 11 वर्षों में नॉर्थ ईस्ट में दशकों से चल रहे अनेक विवाद, अनेक संघर्ष समाप्त हुए हैं। लोगों ने शांति का रास्ता चुना है, विकास को प्राथमिकता दी है। मुझे संतोष है कि हाल ही में हिल्स और वैली में अलग अलग ग्रुप्स के साथ समझौतों के लिए बातचीत की शुरुआत हुई है। ये भारत सरकार के उन प्रयासों का हिस्सा है जिसमें संवाद, सम्मान और आपसी समझ को महत्व देते हुए शांति की स्थापना के लिए काम किया जा रहा है। मैं सभी संगठनों से अपील करूंगा कि शांति के रास्ते पर आगे बढ़कर अपने सपनों को पूरा करें, अपने बच्चों के भविष्य को सुनिश्चित करें और मैं आज आपको वादा करता हूं, मैं आपके साथ हूं। भारत सरकार आपके साथ है, मणिपुर के लोगों के साथ है। साथियों, मणिपुर में जिंदगी को फिर से पटरी पर लाने के लिए भारत सरकार हर संभव प्रयास कर रही है। जो बेघर हो गए ऐसे परिवारों के लिए 7,000 नए घर बनाने के लिए हमारी सरकार मदद दे रही है। हाल में ही करीब 3,000 करोड़ रुपए का स्पेशल पैकेज भी स्वीकृत किया गया है। विस्थापितों की मदद के लिए 500 करोड़ रुपए का विशेष प्रावधान किया गया है। साथियों, मैं मणिपुर के ट्राइबल नौजवानों के सपने और उनके संघर्षों के बारे में अच्छी तरह जानता हूं। आपकी चिंताओं को दूर करने के लिए अलग अलग समाधानों पर काम हो रहे हैं। सरकार का प्रयास है कि गवर्नेंस की जो लोकल बॉडीज है उनको भी मजबूत किया जाए। इनके विकास के लिए उचित फंड्स की व्यवस्था भी की जा रही है। साथियों, आज हर ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी का विकास ये देश की प्राथमिकता है। पहली बार आदिवासी क्षेत्रों के विकास के लिए धरती आबा जनजातीय ग्राम उत्कर्ष अभियान चल रहा है। इसके तहत मणिपुर के 500 से ज्यादा गांवों में विकास के काम हो रहे हैं। ट्राइबल एरियाज में एकलव्य मॉडल रेसिडेंशियल स्कूलों की संख्या भी बढ़ाई जा रही है। यहां मणिपुर में भी 18 एकलव्य मॉडल रेसिडेंशियल स्कूल बन रहे हैं। स्कूलों और कॉलेजों के आधुनिकीकरण से यहां के पहाड़ी जिलों में एजुकेशन की सुविधाएं बहुत अधिक बढ़ने वाली है। साथियों, मणिपुर का कल्चर नारी शक्ति को बढ़ावा देने वाला रहा है और हमारी सरकार भी नारी शक्ति को एम्पावर करने में जुटी है। सरकार वर्किंग विमेन हॉस्टल का भी निर्माण कर रही है ताकि मणिपुर की बेटियों की मदद हो सके। साथियों, हम मणिपुर को पीस, प्रॉस्पेरिटी और प्रोग्रेस का प्रतीक बनाने का लक्ष्य लेकर चल रहे हैं। मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं, मणिपुर के विकास के लिए विस्थापितों को जल्द से जल्द उचित स्थान पर बसाने के लिए, शांति की स्थापना के लिए भारत सरकार यहां मणिपुर सरकार का ऐसे ही सहयोग करती रहेगी। मैं एक बार फिर आप सभी को विकास परियोजना की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं और आपने जो प्यार दिया है, जो सम्मान दिया है, इसके लिए मैं मणिपुर वासियों का हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मेरे साथ बोले, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
The 4 words that the Prime Minister has said, "I am with you," will resonate across Churachandpur and the rest of Manipur today. The Prime Minister finishing his first speech in Manipur 2.5 years after the conflict began in the northeastern state is going to have enormous and disproportionate significance given the complexities of what has taken place. The Prime Minister is here in the Churachandpur area of Manipur, which is in the hill districts of Manipur, the place where the Kuki-Zo people and the communities actually live. He will be going to Imphal, where the Meitei community dominates, and that's where he will be meeting displaced persons on the other side of this ethnic conflict and be speaking to people there as well. But the words of the Prime Minister talking about how a beautiful state like Manipur has been drenched in violence, that he is hoping that his words will trigger the first signs of peace between the communities, the Kuki-Zo and the Meiteis, and him saying, "I am with you, the central government is with you," will have an enormous amount of significance. These are not just words. Remember, there is a special and complex context in which the Prime Minister is speaking. The Prime Minister and his team are well aware of how this is going to be a long road towards peace. And Aarti, the Prime Minister's words are important also because it has taken a long time for the Prime Minister to be there in Manipur for all the different complexities that Manipur has to offer in the middle of this ethnic conflict. But I think those 4 words are going to be the big takeaway, if any, from this one speech.
Absolutely, Shiv. And like you mentioned, the fact that the Prime Minister's speech was carefully constructed, and these are the 5 takeaways that I personally took away from the Prime Minister's speech, was that he shut down fearmongers. When he started, he spoke about the scenery. He spoke about people in Manipur who were holding the Tiranga, who were standing there welcoming him. So initially, he has shut down the opposition, fearmongers as well. He did focus on peace talks, where he said that he would appeal to both groups. He said that peace talks have already started between the valley and the other side, between all groups that were warring with each other. He also spoke about tribal welfare, and that's important in a place like Manipur, where he said that schemes are in the works for tribal youth as well, who he said are the future of the country. And interestingly, he said that he would transform Manipur into a peace symbol. Now, that's what the government is focusing on, that a place with so much ethnic strife can come together, can conduct peace talks and become a symbol of peace. And finally, what I also found was interesting was the Prime Minister saying that they're working for Nari Shakti in Manipur, because Shiv, we are aware that there were instances that came forward during the ethnic strife of women being beaten up, and that was something that shocked the entire nation. So working on ensuring that women are empowered in the state is again an interesting and important message the Prime Minister has put forward.
I think those are excellent takeaways, and I agree with you completely, Aarti. Those are the real tent poles of what is a message that the Prime Minister will be hoping sinks into the minds of every Manipuri today. And really everyone watching in the country today, this visit is so hugely important because Manipur is a state that most of us will never visit in our lifetimes, and yet here is a state that has made global headlines because of this ethnic conflict. But I can tell you that Manipur, like the Prime Minister said, truly is a stunning place. It's a beautiful state, and before this ethnic violence actually took place, there was a lot of tourism there, and hopefully all of that will return by way of some of the infrastructure that the Prime Minister is going to be inaugurating in the state, including national highway projects. But I think the appeal that the Prime Minister made, and I'm bringing Saurabh Gupta, a man on the ground in Imphal, the capital of Manipur, in on this, is the Prime Minister really making a personal, heartfelt appeal, Saurabh, to the Kuki-Zo community. He'll be doing that very shortly at the Kangla fort behind you in a short while, in Imphal as well. is to say that, things have been done, things have been said, terrible violence has been perpetrated between these communities, in the name of, the political context of which, in which it is taking place. But it is time to draw a line in the sand and to look towards peace, and that the Prime Minister is personally with the people of Manipur. That was the message. What do you think, Saurabh?
Absolutely. The PM's pitch for peace is something that obviously will find resonance here in Manipur, because remember, this is a state that's been ravaged by violence. And of course, the Prime Minister is now expected here at the Kangla Fort in Imphal as well. And a lot of people are now coming in to listen to what the Prime Minister has to say here. As he arrives from Churachandpur, he's of course made that speech in Churachandpur with, telling them that central government is with you. The PM's speech, pitch for progress and peace, is perhaps the big takeaway from that speech. Says, I'm with you, and of course the personal touch also a part of that whole messaging in the Prime Minister's speech, given the fact that, just before the Prime Minister started speaking, what we were discussing, that in a sense, that there were always, question marks over when the Prime Minister would visit and whether it would happen even today, given the weather. And I think the Prime Minister also mentioned that, and then of course went on to add that perhaps it was nice that he didn't, fly by helicopter, because as he mentioned, there were people along the way that were, welcoming him with flags and the Indian tricolor. So obviously that's something that would find resonance both, between and amongst both communities, given the fact that both sides have seen violence, both sides have suffered, and there are political demands between both sides. But at this point, I think the focus really is, one is peace, progress, and the two can really build a solid future for Manipur, because currently progress is often held up by these violent incidents, and the ethnic strife has hampered development. There's no doubt about that. But again, the Prime Minister's speech very clear, making Manipur, peace the central focus here, and adding that the central government is with you, and the new dawn message is something that perhaps we can see as a major takeaway, and adding that, people have chosen path of peace, dialogue has started between different groups, peace must for progress. These are, these might sound, lines that from speeches, but in the context of Manipur, they hold real significance, because the people here have felt the brunt, have borne the brunt of violence, and what violence can do to a state and its people. So therefore, that is something that is the takeaway from the speech. And you can see long queues, actually. Let me just show you pictures here. Long queues outside the Kangla Fort, as the Prime Minister is expected here. Lots of people walking in. Of course, security is very tight. We are not allowed in with cameras, so we are also outside. There's a message of a whole list of things that you cannot carry inside, and that's a protocol as far as Prime Minister security is concerned. But look at the crowds outside the Kangla Fort, and if I can ask my camera person to turn around and show you, there are people pouring in from all parts of the Imphal Valley here in this place, waiting to hear from the Prime Minister. In fact, I'll try and get in a few voices if I can from the people who've come here. And sir, if I can just very quickly ask you, the Prime Minister is visiting. You're here obviously to listen to him. And a lot of people today, when he was driving, from the airport, there were a lot of people welcoming him. Obviously, the message of peace is something that will connect with the people of Manipur.
I think so, because actually the Prime Minister is coming. It is our honor that we hope that some peace message will be delivering to our state regarding the conflict which is going in the past few days. So I just really hope from the Prime Minister to make settle both the religious in harmonious way.
Absolutely, and I see you're a young person. You must be a young person, a young citizen from this state who would like peace, progress, employment, security, all of these things. You have a whole lifetime in front of you, and you're a young person. The Prime Minister's visit also focuses on a lot of projects, development projects, job creation, projects, highways, connectivity. For example, the Jiribam Imphal railway line. The Prime Minister spoke about the new airport terminal, the new railway line. Those are things that matter to people like you, to people who have gathered here.
Yes. Yes, actually, all those which you just mentioned, all the things matter to the people. But regarding all that, what I would like to emphasize as a young citizen of the Manipur, that peace is the main thing which we want. Because, whenever there is strike, our school students cannot study properly, all the things. So that's why, because regarding to the, not only that, about the, yes, peace. Not only peace, but about the development. Whenever there's something new project is there, due to strike, burn, all the cease or stop.
Absolutely. I think this is what the message is, that, when there is lack of peace, when there is, violence, people, the young population of Manipur, they are the ones who suffer the most, and therefore, they are coming in today to listen to the Prime Minister and, see what he has to say. Of course, the big message of peace, the PM's new dawn message from here as well. And you heard young citizens of Manipur, peace, development, something that the Prime Minister's speech also echoed.
Like you mentioned earlier, the Prime Minister's message, it wasn't just a speech with taglines. It was something that really resonated with people, because it was not an ethnic strife that just came about overnight, and it can't be solved overnight as well. And I think the Prime Minister's message also pointed that out, Shiv. He did say that peace talks have started, so have patience.
That's right. He was basically saying that there is an acknowledgement at every level that there are going to be no easy answers, easy solutions to what's happening in Manipur. But he was rising above the smaller complexities that have resulted in all this terrible violence in Manipur, and saying we have to rise above it now and look at it from a different perspective. We need to move away from the bloodshed, provide leadership, and therefore look for a different solution, approach the problem in a different way. And that's where those 4 words really resonate. I am with you. Live pictures of the Prime Minister and his cavalcade making its way from Churachandpur in the hill districts of Manipur to Imphal. The roads lined with students and children with the Tiranga. Beautiful sight, welcoming the Prime Minister into the valley district of Imphal. The capital city of Manipur, where the Prime Minister will be at the Kangla Fort, like Saurabh was just telling us, where he will similarly be meeting with internally displaced persons from the Meitei community, the other side of this ethnic conflict, after meeting the Kukizo children earlier in Churachandpur. The Prime Minister will be making an address there as well. And I think, and as we've been pointing out, Aarti, the fact that the Prime Minister is visiting 2 separate places, making 2 separate speeches, meeting with the children and violence victims from 2 separate communities, really sort of defines what this problem is. It isn't one speech to the people of Manipur. It necessarily needs to be 2 separate speeches. And that is a reality check as far as how divided and how terrible the last 2.5 years have been. The trust shattered between the Kukizo and the Meitei communities of Manipur is a reality that no amount of soft focus visits can really take away. And the Prime Minister recognizes that very much, because he attaches a huge amount of maybe even unprecedented political importance to developing the Northeast. And that's the reason why there is a measure of pragmatism to what is taking place in Manipur today as part of this visit. You will have the Mallikarjun Kharges and the Priyanka Vadras of the world calling it a pit stop and not adequate in addressing the concerns of the people of Manipur. And the politics of it will be there, and criticism will be there. But what the Prime Minister is doing today, traveling between Churachandpur and Imphal, is sending out a message that he will be everywhere, that he will send out a message to both sides and he needs to bring them together because that is what his priority is. Before we go back to Saurabh and Ratnadeep Arti, let's just play out for our viewers once again what the Prime Minister said about the violence and being there for the people of Manipur.
मणिपुर की ये धरती, ये क्षेत्र आशा और उम्मीद की भूमि है, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से हिंसा ने इस शानदार इलाके को अपनी चपेट में ले लिया था। थोड़ी देर पहले मैं उन प्रभावित लोगों से मिला हूं जो कैंप्स में रह रहे हैं। उनसे बातचीत के बाद मैं कह सकता हूं कि उम्मीद और विश्वास की नई सुबह मणिपुर में दस्तक दे रही है। साथियों, किसी भी स्थान पर विकास के लिए शांति की स्थापना बहुत जरूरी है। बीते 11 वर्षों में नॉर्थ ईस्ट में दशकों से चल रहे अनेक विवाद, अनेक संघर्ष समाप्त हुए हैं। लोगों ने शांति का रास्ता चुना है, विकास को प्राथमिकता दी है। मुझे संतोष है कि हाल ही में हिल्स और वैली में अलग अलग ग्रुप्स के साथ समझौतों के लिए बातचीत की शुरुआत हुई है। ये भारत सरकार के उन प्रयासों का हिस्सा है जिसमें संवाद, सम्मान और आपसी समझ को महत्व देते हुए शांति की स्थापना के लिए काम किया जा रहा है।
Right, the Prime Minister's message there, Shiv, quite, again, like we said, bringing out the message of peace. And like you said, the two speeches that he is going to make, very important.
Extremely important. And I want to get a perspective also from Ratnadeep, who's with us in Guwahati, on the overall takeaways for him from this speech. Ratnadeep, a very heartfelt speech. You know, you could tell that the Prime Minister was in his personal element. This was not an official speech. He was trying to reach out to the hearts and minds of the Kuki-Zo community. We'll see the same thing happening in Imphal very shortly. His cavalcade is traveling towards the Kangla fort right now as we speak. What were your three big takeaways from that speech, Ratnadeep?
Absolutely. If you see that reach out of the Prime Minister perhaps directly connected to these people who have been victim of violence, and perhaps he laid out a roadmap towards a sustained peace in Manipur. Remember, this is coming from the highest office in the country, the Prime Minister himself sitting there talking face to face with the victim and then to the larger audience of the Kuki-Zo community. And he clearly said that, look, you see in other parts of Northeast, in the past 1 decade, several complex conflicts have been solved in other parts of Northeast by the government, and you see those, you support our initiative in terms of taking development forward in Manipur. And he reached out to the organization saying that you have to work on the path of peace to ensure a peaceful, developed Manipur for the next generation. Now, in this way, he is setting the roadmap that the organizations and the people, the communities who were involved in violence now need to help the government establish peace, help the government in doing justice to the people, and peace and justice would return through a fast-track development. Perhaps that is a very important message that the Prime Minister has sent across. For me personally, as somebody who was there in Manipur between 3rd to 6th of May 2023 in Churachandpur itself, I can kind of recall those visuals, those situations that I've seen, and today's visual perhaps is a big contrast of how people, despite heavy rains, lined up with national flags in their hands, waiting for the Prime Minister, waiting to hear from them. They want to come out of this cycle of violence, and there in front of them was the Prime Minister assuring them that he is there with them to take them out of this cycle of violence into a path of peace, prosperity and progress. These three statements were made by the Prime Minister, very important, and we hope that the Prime Minister, not only in terms of reaching out to people,
compelling, and I can only imagine how you feel about it, having actually reported from there. We're going to take a very, very quick break. But remember, the second half of the Prime Minister's visit comes up. He's going to be reaching the Kangla Fort in Manipur's Imphal in just a moment from now. So we're taking a quick break. When you come back, the Prime Minister will be on stage, meeting with the Meitei community, and we'll get that to you live. Stay with NDTV. Coverage continues.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती है तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
मैं आपका बात से सहमत हूं, उल्टे हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. And now, Aditya Raj Kaul begins a new chapter at NDTV.
Actually, I'm taking off because the stories I cover don't sit still. To bring the world to India and to take India to the world, I need to be where action is.
Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else, only on NDTV network.
Pulling us into this country. They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
Prime Minister Modi makes a pitch for peace and progress in Manipur. He tells Manipur, I am with you. Prime Minister Modi meets displaced people in Manipur.
पे रह रहे हैं, उनसे बातचीत के बाद मैं कह सकता हूं कि उम्मीद और विश्वास की नई सुबह मणिपुर में दस्तक दे रही है।
Prime Minister Modi inaugurates a railway line in Mizoram, launches multi-development projects, hails Operation Sindoor in the state and slams opposition's vote bank politics. TVK kickstarts actor Vijay's Yatra in Tiruchi. Fans, supporters welcome TVK chief Vijay. Show strength in Tiruchi. Prime Minister Modi condoles Hassan Ganpati mishap in Karnataka, announces 2 lakh extra share for kin of deceased. Prime Minister Modi is in Manipur. He just addressed one part of the ethnic groups. He addressed the Kuki group there in Churachandpur. It was a significant visit. Now, in part of his speech, Prime Minister Modi said that peace talks have already begun, and he did make an appeal to the youth of Manipur as well, and said that look at the progress that is made through peace. And he also urged all communities to work together towards what he called was a healing and a new beginning. Now, Prime Minister Modi is also heading now to Imphal, where he'll be addressing the Meitei community. And remember, this is the first time the Prime Minister has visited Manipur after the ethnic strife that had gripped the state and which led to widespread violence. Interestingly, the Prime Minister is going to be making two addresses, one in Churachandpur and one in Imphal, which also implies he'll be making two separate addresses to two different ethnic groups. Now, the first message that he had put out essentially was interestingly, what the Prime Minister said was what he saw when he arrived at Manipur, where he saw people standing along, welcoming him with the Tiranga, with the national flag. The Prime Minister also in his speech spoke about Nari Shakti, empowering them, empowering tribal communities as well. And he said that work is already being done for schemes for tribal communities, for women as well as ethnic groups, and ensuring that Manipur is a symbol of peace.
मणिपुर की ये धरती, ये क्षेत्र आशा और उम्मीद की भूमि है, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से हिंसा ने इस शानदार इलाके को अपनी चपेट में ले लिया था। थोड़ी देर पहले मैं उन प्रभावित लोगों से मिला हूं जो कैंप्स में रह रहे हैं। उनसे बातचीत के बाद मैं कह सकता हूं कि उम्मीद और विश्वास की नई सुबह मणिपुर में दस्तक दे रही है। साथियों, किसी भी स्थान पर विकास के लिए शांति की स्थापना बहुत जरूरी है। बीते 11 वर्षों में नॉर्थ ईस्ट में दशकों से चल रहे अनेक विवाद, अनेक संघर्ष समाप्त हुए हैं। लोगों ने शांति का रास्ता चुना है, विकास को प्राथमिकता दी है। मुझे संतोष है कि हाल ही में हिल्स और वैली में अलग अलग ग्रुप्स के साथ समझौतों के लिए बातचीत की शुरुआत हुई है। ये भारत सरकार के उन प्रयासों का हिस्सा है जिसमें संवाद, सम्मान और आपसी समझ को महत्व देते हुए शांति की स्थापना के लिए काम किया जा रहा है। मणिपुर की ये धरती हौसलों और हिम्मत की धरती है। ये हिल्स प्रकृति का अनमोल उपहार है और साथ ही ये हिल्स आप सभी लोगों की निरंतर मेहनत का भी प्रतीक है। मैं मणिपुर के लोगों के जज्बे को सैल्यूट करता हूं। इतनी भारी बारिश में भी आप इतनी बड़ी संख्या में यहां आए, मैं आपके इस प्यार के लिए आपका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। साथियों, हमारी सरकार के दौरान ही मणिपुर में रेल कनेक्टिविटी का विस्तार हो रहा है। जिरीबाम इंफाल रेलवे लाइन बहुत जल्द राजधानी इंफाल को नेशनल रेल नेटवर्क से जोड़ देगी। इस पर सरकार 22,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च कर रही है। 400 करोड़ की लागत से बना नया इंफाल एयरपोर्ट एयर कनेक्टिविटी को नई ऊंचाई दे रहा है। इस एयरपोर्ट से राज्य से दूसरे हिस्सों के लिए हेलीकॉप्टर सर्विसेज भी शुरू की गई है। ये बढ़ती हुई कनेक्टिविटी मणिपुर के आप सभी लोगों की सुविधाएं बढ़ा रही है। यहां के नौजवानों के लिए रोजगार के नए मौके बना रही है।
Here's what the former CM of Manipur, Biren Singh, had to say. Listen in.
मंत्री जी मोदी जी जो मणिपुर में आ रहा है, तो इसके लिए हम देखिए बारिश होने से भी इतना खराब बारिश हुआ है, बहुत चुरचांदपुर है, इम्फाल, फिर भी आप सब ने देखा है कि कितना क्राउड आया है, कितना मोदी जी का असम में मोदी जी का प्यार और अपने भाजपा का प्यार मणिपुर से देखिए। अभी कांगला पूरा फुल हो गया और चुरचांदपुर में भी अभी पूरा पब्लिक गैदरिंग है। तो मोदी जी ने यहाँ आके वेदर की वजह से खुद इम्फाल एयरपोर्ट से चुरचांदपुर को बाय रोड किया है। ऐसा ही कभी नहीं देखा, ऐसा ही प्राइम मिनिस्टर इतना हिम्मत से इतना मणिपुर को इतना प्यार करता है। तो हम लोग उम्मीद है, पीपल आर एक्सपेक्टिंग कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी आए मणिपुर में। अभी डेवलपमेंट तो पहले से भी कर रहा है और अभी भी आज भी मोर देन 8,000 करोड़ का ये इनॉग्रेशन है, फाउंडेशन स्टोन है। और खास करके हम लोग ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने जो इंटरनली डिस्प्लेस्ड पर्सन लोग को जो मिलने की जा रहा है और प्यार दे रहा है और उसका इज्जत दे रहा है, उसका सोच मतलब शेयर कर रहा है, इससे बड़ा क्या है। तो हम लोग ये सोचता हूँ कि मणिपुर में जल्दी से जल्दी प्राइम मिनिस्टर आने के साथ साथ पीस वापस आ जाए और डेवलपमेंट में आगे जाए। ये सब हमसे प्रार्थना है और मोदी जी को हम सादे से प्रणाम करता हूँ और हार्दिक से वेलकम करता हूँ।
My colleague Saurabh joins us from Imphal. Saurabh, take us through now the preparations on ground. The Prime Minister is about to reach there. Any moment is what we're learning. You've spoken to some people on ground as well, and what is the pulse like?
Well, the mood is very clear. The Prime Minister, of course, everybody wants to hear him. The message of peace and development is something that the youth that I spoke to outside the Kangla gate also seem to echo. I'm right now right at the gate of the Raj Bhavan. The Prime Minister's convoy is expected from this road behind me, and of course he's going to drive in from that side and then perhaps take, reach Kangla. But we're waiting for the Prime Minister to arrive now at Kangla, which is the second leg of his visit to Manipur. And there are key takeaways like we've mentioned. One is, of course, peace and progress, infrastructure development. And in fact, the last time I visited Manipur, there was a lot of people had shared a lot of sort of concern over, the railway line that's being built and how long it would take to complete it. And even today, the Prime Minister mentioned it very clearly, the Jiribam-Imphal railway line, a new terminal of the airport, which is, again, about just 2 kilometers away from here. All of these are projects that, along with the peace process, along with bringing back peace and stability to this area, will also help in ensuring that there is stability in the area and there is development and connectivity issues that have been legacy problems in parts of the northeast, especially in states like Manipur. Those issues are also resolved. So the Prime Minister, of course, has left Churachandpur, and he's expected to drive down from Churachandpur. As you can see, the traffic is now being more or less cleared out for the Prime Minister's arrival at Kangla Fort, which is right behind me, right ahead of me. And of course, the Prime Minister is first expected to meet internally displaced people right here. And then, of course, he is going to also address a gathering here in Imphal as well. So this is we're expecting the Prime Minister to arrive in Imphal after leaving Churachandpur. It should be about a few minutes for him and less than an hour. And then, of course, he's going to come here and address the gathering here at the Kangla Fort. And there's a huge crowd already at Kangla, despite the weather, despite it raining quite heavily all morning. And even now, the rains really haven't let up. In fact, even the Prime Minister mentioned that despite the heavy rain, due to which his chopper couldn't fly, the people have turned up here, and people are here to sort of try and welcome the Prime Minister.
Saurabh, stay on with us. Let me bring in senior journalist Hoinu Hazel, who's still with us on the broadcast. Hoinu, if we're talking about two different groups the Prime Minister is going to be addressing, right? Although there are differences between these ethnic groups that we are well aware of, both youth on both sides want the same thing. They want peace. They want a better tomorrow.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon again. Yes, absolutely. When it comes to the aspirations of the youth from both the communities, peace, of course, is at the center of what we would want. But for peace to come in, I think some ingredients have not been spelled out right from the beginning. So I think we need to address those and spell out what is peace. I think that ambiguity is something that has to be addressed. And I am glad that the Honorable Prime Minister has made an attempt. He spoke at length. I must say, he spoke beautifully in English in Mizoram, you know, breaking barriers. I wish he had spoken in English in Churachandpur because Hindi is not very well spoken there. It could have, you know, bridged the gap, you know, because sometimes language can also be a barrier. But anyway, that's just my observation. And he did speak about very important things in terms of there would be phases of resettlement for people who are, dislocated, and also infrastructure development, connectivity, inclusivity. Those are very broad and very heavy words, including saying that Manipur, he wants it to be the symbol of peace. But again, I said the very basics, we always overlook the very basics of what are the ingredients of peace. I think if they were spelled out, and also a visit like this is absolutely not an overnight thought. It must have been, long months of preparation. The premise of this visit, they know. For instance, we expected that he would address about the connectivity. Now, the airport of Imphal is a national property. Why is it that a certain community in the state are still not able to use? Is there any other provision, the arrangement? All of those have not been spelled out. So I think, again, let this be the beginning. And I'm hoping that a lot more of these issues, which are of greater importance, are addressed. And I hope that this is just a beginning of what could be the road to rebuilding, reconstruction, and a start on what has left everybody disheartened and disillusioned.
And I think development also plays an important part when it comes to ensuring that there is peace in a situation, because like you mentioned, most unrest develops or festers from the lack of development, from the lack of access to facilities. And interestingly, again, the Prime Minister in his earlier speech as well did speak about the rail line that will be connecting Manipur to the major rail network in India. And that again will be a major connectivity boost for Imphal.
Yes, absolutely. You said it. This mega railway project, which is worth more than 4,000 crore, is going to be connecting Imphal, which is already well connected with the rest of the country by airways. But it is again bypassing the hills. When I talk of the hills, I'm not just talking about Churachandpur, the other Naga-dominated hills. So again, it's not really an equitable infrastructure development for people. We have to be very mindful that Manipur is broadly made up of different segments of people, the hills and the valley, of course, but there are also the other community, the Naga communities. What about rail route linking all of these districts? So again, I think the premise is again set on a very, very narrow base where again the hill tribes are overlooked and underrepresented again. So I think we would be back to square one. When I say square one, we do not really accept or understand or recognize the need to address all of this, which is also one of the root cause of the problems. So I wish this were addressed. I wish there were a broader spectrum to look into Manipur. When we talk of the railways, of course, it's a welcome thing, but it should not bypass the other communities, the hill dwellers.
Absolutely. Stay on with us, Hoinu. Let me bring in my colleague Saurabh on the ground with us, joining us from Imphal. Saurabh, now, as we were discussing, the fact that although there are differences between both communities, the youth there, you've spoken to some people on the ground as well, they are echoing the Prime Minister's message that ultimately they want development, they want peace, and they want a better future.
That's right. In fact, they have been talking about peace and development. People here, of course, have seen the worst of the violence, and they've been talking about peace and development. But, there are critical daily life issues that also people face because of what we've seen as the impact of the ethnic violence. One is, of course, road closures. Now, the national highway, which the community in the valley, the Meitei community, cannot access because of the constraints that are there because of the violence. So that's one thing. Secondly, the community in the hills cannot again access the Imphal airport, and this is both ways. And the Prime Minister, of course, the Jiribam-Imphal rail link, and one of the things that, again, the Prime Minister's focus as far as the Northeast has been is to ensure rail connectivity. Today, of course, the capital of Mizoram, the neighboring state of Manipur, is connected to the national capital, New Delhi, by train. The Prime Minister flagged it off. There is a similar project to connect Imphal to the national rail network, and that's the Jiribam-Imphal rail link, which again I've covered in the past, which has been going on, and Prime Minister mentioned it in his speech. So connectivity is something that has also suffered because of the ethnic violence, whether it's the Kuki community and access to the Imphal airport, or the Meitei community and the access to the national highway that comes from Nagaland and then into Manipur and then onwards, towards the Myanmar border. All of these are things that are, problems that have been faced by people, and the Prime Minister addressing that in his speech is something very, very important and a key takeaway, I would presume, from the Prime Minister's speech. In fact, the Prime Minister is now on his way from, from Churachandpur, and of course, he will be driving down from there and arrive here, and you can see posters all over this place welcoming the Prime Minister to Imphal. You can see, of course, here also, posters welcoming the Prime Minister to Imphal that have been put up here. And the Prime Minister is expected to arrive here in a short while from now to address the gathering at the Kangla Fort here in Imphal. And the historic Kangla Fort is, of course, the venue for the Prime Minister's program here. He's going to meet internally displaced people here. And this is something that I've been repeating in our coverage on NDTV, that the focus of the Prime Minister's visit is to have genuine, direct conversations. He's met with the IDPs in Churachandpur. He's going to come here and meet with the IDPs in Imphal as well.
But continue tracking the story for us as it develops. We'll of course come back to it as the Prime Minister reaches Imphal and makes his address there as well. For now, we take a short break.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Well, we're on an incredible piece of Indian engineering. Shiv and I are absolutely privileged to be here with Larsen & Toubro in Hazira near Surat. This is a tank. It's called the Zorawar. It takes the battle to the Chinese in altitudes upwards of 15,000 feet.
You know, Vishnu, it's actually incredible that for a country that has fought so many wars in the mountains and at high altitude, a country didn't know until it had another war on its hands that it needed a tank like the Zorawar.
No, you're
that's the
right.
kind of tank we're sitting on.
You're absolutely right. Now, India does have a history of light tanks.
Yeah.
We've had the Sherman tank, pushed up the Zojila Pass in 1948. We've had the AMX light tank. We've had the PT-76, but they weren't Indian.
Yeah.
This is an Indian tank for a new modern Indian requirement, and it stands out as the best tank of its class, possibly in the world.
There are tanks like the T-15, which the Chinese deployed in Ladakh during the standoff. There is the Sprut, which is a Russian tank, which the Russians have been offering us, hoping that India will buy it along with all the other Russian weapons. but the Indian Army and the Indian government took a decision that this was a requirement that needed to be met here in India. And that's the reason why, we use the phrase mission mode, Vishnu, which is building a weapon system like the Zorawar in response to a live threat or a live combat situation, which is what Eastern Ladakh really is. And that's the reason why Vishnu and I sitting here on the Zorawar means so much, Vishnu. This is the actual tank that was there in the mountains.
And this was a tank which was designed and developed and prototyped and rolled out in 21 months. This has already done trials quite successfully by LNG, not yet user trials, up in Ladakh, out in the desert as well. They are fixing it to make it even better, and very soon it's going to be handed over to the Indian Army to put it through some incredibly rigorous trials, because acquisition of these tanks in very large numbers takes place.
Now, as Prime Minister Modi is in Manipur, the opposition has hit out as his Manipur visit. Congress Chief Kharge has called it a 3-hour pit stop and has said this cannot be called compassion. Priyanka Gandhi as well questioning why it took the Prime Minister 2 years to visit, and has said that he should have visited earlier, while the TMC saying that his 56-inch chest is filled with fear. Omar Abdullah saying it's better late than never. Tejashwi Yadav saying that it's too late now, he should visit Assam instead. The opposition, all guns blazing on Prime Minister Modi as he is in Manipur. Let's quickly listen in to what the opposition had to say.
I'm glad that he has decided after 2 years that it's worth him visiting. He should have visited much long before. And it's very unfortunate that he has allowed what is happening there to happen for so long, and so many people to get killed and so many people to go through so much strife before he has decided to visit. That's not been the tradition of prime ministers in India. Right through, no matter which party they were, wherever there was pain, wherever there was suffering, they would go. And that has been the tradition since independence. So he's fulfilling it after 2 years. I think he should have thought of it before.
We see the problems, but you as a social entrepreneur see the solutions. You are not just creating solution, you are creating a future where everyone has a chance to thrive. For the change makers, the innovators, the ones building a better world, one solution at a time. The Adani Green Talk Social Impact Awards are created for you. Green Talk Social Impact Awards 2025, coming soon.
Presenting the all-knowing, all-powerful Tech Guru.
Whoa. Guru? I'm no guru.
Okay.
I'm just a guy who loves his tech.
A show where the mysteries of megabytes and motherboards shall be unraveled.
Bro, nobody talks like that anymore. This is all about connected ecosystems, EVs and AI that you can use in your daily life. That's what we do on Tech 360. Real talk, real reviews, tech that you can actually use.
Tech has changed. So should your tech show.
We're the only country with such a large population of youth and yuva.
Pure talent और कुछ नहीं है.
बुलाने वाला फ्यूचर काफी अच्छा है स्पोर्ट्स का.
Luck, patience and a lot of tolerance.
Life can change overnight.
जीवन में मैंने कोशिश की है सदैव चुनौती को अपनाने.
We need to work towards an egalitarian society, regardless of gender and orientation.
This is the Zorawar, India's very own light tank. Built for a very specific requirement to defend our forces and attack when necessary in high altitude areas. Conceived of in the post-Galwan context and in direct response to the emergence of the Chinese Type 15 light tank, the Zorawar is meant to plug holes in India's armoured defences. At the moment, India uses heavy tanks, the T-90 and T-72, way up in the Ladakh heights. These are far too heavy and unwieldy for operations in the rarefied atmosphere. And so, Zorawar was designed and developed in 21 months straight. Weighing in at 25 tons, close to half the weight of the older tanks, the Zorawar can be easily airlifted and is built with the future in mind. Upgradability. Designed to operate with drones, it'll also feature an active protection system, a system which intercepts incoming missiles and rockets to protect the tank. But these upgrades will come later. At the moment, the army appears committed to the tank, which is being trialled not just in high altitude areas, but also the desert. The Zorawar weighs 25 tons. It has a power to weight ratio of 30 horsepower per ton. That's key in the mountains. It has a 1000 horsepower engine. It's amphibious. It can ford rivers and lakes. It can fire missiles, has a 105mm main gun, a 12.7mm remote-controlled weapon station, and a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun.
एक बार एक जंगल में एक शेर था। एक दिन वो सो रहा था, है ना? एक छोटा सा चूहा आया और वो आकर उस पर जंप करने लगा।
एक शेर, बहुत बड़ा शेर।
ओ, कहाँ रहता था वो?
वो जंगल में रहता था।
फिर
वो चूहा आया, फिर उसके ऊपर कूदने लगा, दौड़ने लगा।
ओए होए, फिर क्या हुआ?
स्लाइड करने लगा।
फिर
चूहे को पकड़ लिया।
ओए, चूहे ने क्या बोला फिर?
फिर बोला मुझे छूट दो, मैं आपको माफी मांगती हूँ।
ओ, ऐसे बोला चूहा? फिर क्या हुआ?
कार्य ने जाल डाल के देखा, उन जाल में फंस गया।
ओ माय गॉड, कौन जाल में फंस गया बेटा?
शेर।
ओए, देन?
फिर चूहा आया।
हाँ।
उसे बचाने के लिए लेके आया।
ओ माय गॉड, फिर क्या हुआ?
चूहा आया,
हाँ।
उसकी मदद करने जाल को काट दिया।
ओए, वाओ, फिर शेर ने क्या किया?
शेर आजाद हो गया।
उन्होंने ऐसे करा, कैसे करा? हग करा, और फिर क्या बोला उन्होंने? थैंक यू।
Hello and welcome to this very special episode. What if the most powerful technology for a child's imagination isn't a screen but a book? आज AI apps और endless notifications के ज़माने में हम फिर से डिस्कवर कर रहे हैं एक टाइमलेस मैजिक स्टोरी टेलिंग का। स्टोरीज स्लो अस डाउन, वो हमें और करीब लाती हैं, जोड़ती हैं और सिर्फ शब्दों के ज़रिए एक पूरी नई दुनिया खोल देती हैं। They take us to a new world. स्टोरीज इमेजिनेशन को जगाती हैं, कनेक्शन बनाती हैं, क्यूरियोसिटी और वोकैबुलरी बढ़ाती हैं और एक कामनेस के साथ ज़िंदगी भर के लिए एक लाइफ लॉन्ग लव फॉर लर्निंग पैदा करती हैं। सो इन दिस ओवर स्टिम्युलेटेड वर्ल्ड मे बी लेस स्क्रीन मोर स्टोरी इज़ द रीसेट आवर चिल्ड्रन ट्रूली नीड। और इसीलिए हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में हैं शालीना बहल, जो हमें एक कहानी सुनाने आई हैं। और बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं, तो बच्चे तो पहले से ही बहुत एक्साइटेड हैं, तालियां भी बजा रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें पता है कि स्टोरी टाइम बस शुरू ही होने वाली है। और यहाँ है शालीना बहल।
हाय हाय हाय। पता ये बेबी काओ मुझे रास्ते में मिली, उसने मेरे से पूछा कि आप स्टोरी सुनाने जा रहे हो, तो मैंने बोला हाँ अभी आपके पास आएगी, आप उधर जाके बैठो। तो मैंने इसको नाम दे दिया मूमू। क्या नाम दिया? मूमू। तो ये भी आप सबके साथ आज स्टोरी सुनने आई है। एक बार बहुत पहले की बात है, एक छोटा सा टाउन होता था। अब एक बार क्या हुआ, पापा मम्मी के घर में एक छोटा सा बेबी आया, बहुत क्यूटू सा प्यारा सा छोटा सा बेबी आया। मम्मी ने सोचा अब नाम तो रखना है इसका, क्या नाम रखे? तो मम्मा ने नाम बोला, क्या नाम बोला? पाचो। मम्मी ने कहा इसका नाम क्या रख देते हैं? पाचो। पापा आए, पापा कहते हैं पाचो, नहीं 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 ऐसा करते हैं, इसका नाम रख देते हैं नाचो। दादू ने कहा पाचो नाचो, नहीं नहीं निको रख देते हैं। दादी ने कहा निको, नहीं नहीं टीको। फिर नाना नानी आए, नानी ने नाम रखा मेलो, नानू ने नाम रखा फेलो। फिर दीदी आई, बुआ आई, चाची आई, मामी आई, सब लोग आए और सब अपना अपना नाम लेकर के आए। कोई कहता पाचो, कोई कहता नाचो, कोई कहता निको टीको मेलो फेलो कीको रीको। अब इतने छोटे से बेबी का नाम, इतने सारे नाम, तो सोच सकते हो पापा मम्मी ने क्या नाम रखा उसका? एनी गेसेस? सोचो सोचो। उसका नाम मैं ना लिख के लाई हूँ, थोड़ा सा बड़ा हो गया था तो उसके पापा मम्मी ने उसको ये नाम दिया, दिखाओ दिखाओ, पाचो नाचो निको टीको मेलो फेलो कीको रिको। पकड़ो इसको। थोड़े टाइम बाद उनके घर में एक और बेबी हुआ, छोटा भाई आया उसके घर में। अब मम्मी पापा ने इस बार किसी से पूछा नहीं कि क्या नाम रखना है और उसका नाम रख दिया बडी। क्या नाम रख दिया? उनके घर के पास एक फार्म था जहाँ पे पापा मम्मी फार्मिंग करते थे और उसके आगे थी एक रिवर। मम्मी पापा ने बोल दिया था कि रिवर के पास नहीं जाना, रिवर के पास जाना डेंजरस होता है ना, रिवर के पास नहीं जाना। तो उनका संडे का दिन था, छुट्टी थी, दोनों भाई गए फार्म से आगे रिवर पे गए। वहाँ पे क्या थे? फ्रॉग्स, फिशेस, और पानी बह रहा था और एक बड़ा सा मैंगो ट्री था। मैंगो ट्री पे चढ़ गया कौन? पाचो नाचो निको टिको मेलो फेलो कीको रिको। वो ट्री पे चढ़ गया। अब ट्री पे चढ़ तो गया, अब जैसे ही ट्री पे चढ़ा तो ट्री की जो बाक जो टहनी थी वो टक टूट गई। अब जो बड़ी था वो तो बड़ा छोटा ही था, वो कोई बड़ा थोड़ी था। समझ नहीं आया उसको, वो जल्दी 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 भागा 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 मम्मा के पास गया। मामा पाचो नाचो। हाँ buddy, how many times I have told you to call your brother by his beautiful big name? Okay, okay, mama. Pacho nacho nico tico melo felo kiko rico may fall in the river. Oh mama, my little baby, पानी में गिर जाएगा। क्या करे क्या करे समझ ना आया। उसको बोला चलो जल्दी से भाग करके पापा को बुला के लाओ। पापा पाचो नाचो। Call your brother by his beautiful long name. पाचो नाचो निको टिको मेलो फेलो कीको रिको may fall into the river. Oh my, पहले क्यों नहीं बताया? अब वो बेचारा पहले कैसे बताता, इतना लंबा तो उस बेचारे को नाम दिया हुआ है। फिर पापा गए अपनी रोप ढूंढने के लिए, रस्सी ढूंढने के लिए घर के अंदर गए और रस्सी ले करके उन्होंने रिवर के पास मम्मी पापा और छोटा भाई, कौन था? छोटा भाई बड्डी। तो वो उसका रिवर के पास गए तो वो बेचारा अभी भी टंगा हुआ था, उसको पकड़ करके मम्मा मम्मा पापा बचाओ, हेल्प हेल्प। और पापा ने क्या किया, उस रस्सी को बांधा अपने पेट से, ऐसे टाई करा और चले गए पानी के अंदर। पानी के अंदर गए और किसको बचाया? पाचो नाचो निको टिको मेलो फेलो किको रिको को। उसको बचा करके बाहर लाए। जब बाहर लाए मम्मा ने उसे खूब प्यार करा, पापा ने करा, बड्डी ने उसको खूब प्यार करा। तो मम्मा ने कहा पर क्या करें, अब इतना बड़ा नाम उसका हमने रखा हुआ है, क्या करें? फिर आप क्या करते? अगर आप होते उसकी जगह क्या करते? क्या बोलते मम्मा को? अगर आप बड्डी होते उसके छोटे भाई तो क्या बोलते उसको? चेंज हिज नेम। एग्जैक्टली, बड्डी ने भी यही बोला। तो अगली बार उसका नाम क्या कर दिया फिर उसके बाद से? पाचो नाचो। और कोई भी आगे से वो इतना लंबा वाला लॉन्ग सिली नेम नहीं यूज करेगा, ठीक है? ओके, कैसा लगा आपको उसका नाम?
So wasn't that a lot of fun? सिर्फ कुछ मिनटों की कहानी ने बच्चों की इमेजिनेशन को लाइट अप कर दिया। सब इमेजिन कर रहे थे कि पाचो नाचो ये जो बहुत लंबा सा नाम था वो कौन था, कैसा था, कैसे उसको बचाया। और साथ साथ आपने देखा कि इतनी देर में बच्चों के पास रेस्टलेसनेस भी कम थी, कोई वाईफाई नहीं था, जस्ट वर्ड्स. टुडे ऑन बचपन मनाओ वी आर सेलिब्रेटिंग द जॉयफुल मैजिक ऑफ रीड अलाउड्स एंड स्टोरी टेलिंग. चाहे आप पेरेंट हो, ग्रैंड पेरेंट हो, टीचर हो, या बस एक ऐसे इंसान जो वर्ड्स और प्ले की पावर पे भरोसा करता है, ये एपिसोड आपके लिए. रीडिस्कवर द जॉय ऑफ रीडिंग अलाउड, जो एक ऑर्डिनरी मोमेंट को भी बहुत एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी बना देता है. शालिनी जी, वी विल रीड अलाउड मोर ऑफ दो स्टोरीज एंड आप जब यहाँ पर एक स्टोरी टेलर्स ट्राइब का हिस्सा हैं, आपने देखा होगा कि स्टोरी टेलिंग जो है उसकी क्या मैजिक है, बुक्स की क्या वैल्यू है. क्या आपको आज के दौरान में जब बच्चों के पास इतनी सारी चीज़ें और हैं, ये जो कहानियों का जादू है वो आपको